morning and welcome to our weekly live broadcast for Tourismus Namibia, the local Tourismus magazine of Namibia, brought out by Namibia Media Holdings once a month. My name is Frank Steffen. I'm the editor of that magazine as well as Allgemeine Zeitung. Welcome as before. We again bring you new ideas, news, and obviously a little interview. This time we have it in a bit of a different shape, but have yourself surprised. Before we go to our first theme topics, let's just quickly hear what the marketplace tells us. Topics, as normal, I have looked at a few news items which I thought were very relevant for this week, and I think probably the most pressing issue at the moment is that proposed fracking that they've got planned in the Okavango Delta. This is quite serious because it would seem, and I know for a fact that Republican has brought it as its front article on Friday. Same with Allgemeine Zeitung, certainly had it there. There you can see on the map, it's from the German paper, but let me quickly explain what it is. The dark purple is basically where the company Recon Africa is entitled to search for gas and oil. Now, the sad part is in the middle of them are all these communal conservancy sites. That's the lighter purple. So you can see it's in a place that is really was destined to become a good tourism area, and so most people are truly worried that this will create a huge problem. The light green actually gives you an idea of the multinational Okavango Zambezi Trans-Frontier Park. So this is a park that was established a while ago now, and it really involves Angola, Namibia, Botswana, and Zambia, and even Zimbabwe further to the right. You just can't see it here. So CASA is really a good initiative, and it's sad to see that all of a sudden the old greed for oil is really endangering such a big area, because these guys are talking of hundreds of sites and boreholes, and so the darkish green one is the Kadam National Park. That's where the Sun people are at home, and the yellow spots are some of the UNESCO sites, heritage sites, which have been declared on the Botswana side, being the Okavango Delta and its surroundings. And then the blue is obviously the Okavango Delta itself. So it gives you a real good idea. In the middle of this very ecological sensitive site, they've now put up or given out these rights to search for gas and oil. And you obviously have places like the NCE, which is the Namibia Chamber of Environment, and an organization called Frack Free Namibia, and others. Many of the NGOs that are involved with environmental issues, they've come together, and they're really starting to put up a fight. And we can only hope that this is really going to be solved very soon, because the funny thing is it's pretty much the same story as we had last with the phosphate, where people get these rights to get the prospecting rights, and they're allowed to go on and do their testing. But it turns out subsequently that the environmental study has not yet been presented to the public. The public didn't have the opportunity to speak to this project, and people like the Namibia Chamber of Environment couldn't speak. Now, typically here you see National Geographic They've even taken this up in a big way as well, especially concentrating on the fact that this is one of the last real areas where elephants are still strong and are at home. And I've actually copied another map out of that article. This is in the internet, and you can see it's pretty much the same thing as we just pointed out earlier in that little map. Now, what I've highlighted there at the bottom is hundreds of wells. So this is not a National Geographic that's just sucking this out of their thumb. That was what Recon Africa presented to their investors, saying, look, once we've got those rights, that's what we'll do. And hundreds of boreholes in an ecologically sensitive area such as that cannot work. And so I've actually still looked up another picture, which we'll bring up now, I'm sure, I hope so at least. Matthias, do we have another picture? No, not. But it was quite interesting. If we go back to the picture on which National Geographic was, the article was shown, you will see the just one back from Matthias. Matthias, by the way, is my sound engineer. Okay, now if you look at this, that area is, like I said, full of elephants. So in one of the pictures which they showed there of African elephants, it was a picture of Thomas Dressler, which you find on that as part of that article. He had the caption that says, Botswana is home to the continent's largest remaining herds of African elephants. Some 18,000 of the country's estimated 130,000 elephants roam the Okavango region, many within that area, within the area that Recon Africa looks to exploit for oil and gas. So this has really caused quite a big upstir, and so I really hope that things are going to turn out well. And you know, once in a while, yes, money is important, and wealth for the country is important, but we just need to find a balance, and I just feel that balance wasn't struck here because nobody knew that this fracking was coming up. They'd always spoken about it since 2015, if I'm right. But it's sort of always remained possibly, and they're now denying that they'll use fracking. But on the other hand, they present that to their investors. So they need to convince me. Otherwise, I'm not sure that this is a good idea yet. Right, and then earlier in the week, you might remember Francoise Steinberg. She presented this show together with me live from the Namibia Tourism Expo. And she sent me one of her articles, which I found quite interesting. If you have a look at the picture there, you will see that people are standing just in front of a whole lot of rhinos. And so this is quite nice because it's an organization called Namibia Hospitality Suppliers and Distributors. They're assisting in preserving black and white rhinos. So what they've done as part of the Support Rhino Mama project, they've brought out a wine which they call Flippin' Nice. Now this is obviously a play on Southern African English. Flippin' Nice is, yeah, exactly that, Flippin' Nice, very nice. And they've named that wine, and they're selling it as such, and for each bottle they sell, $5 goes towards rhino conservation. So quite a nice idea, and thought I had to tell you about that. So hopefully many of you will have Flippin' Nice wine sometime this weekend still. All right, and then next up, something that you would think does not really fit in here, but I do think it does. Namibia Media Holdings has just opened its what they called Media Tech, the English word, and it was a bit of a play on words because in German you could talk of a Mediathek as you would speak of a bibliothek, which is a library. And so we decided it would be Media Tech, and Media Tech is really an archive. It's an archive in electronic format. It's an archive, if you consider the Allgemeine Zeitung, obviously the oldest newspaper in Namibia with more than 104 years behind it. All those papers are stored in that super modern archive. And we started scanning in all of our papers over time now. So I know for a fact that Namibian Sun is all online, available online within the archive. Same with Republikein. I think they're complete by now, but Allgemeine will still take a bit of time, obviously because of these many years. But the idea ultimately is that those who want to do some research can actually visit that library. There's also a little cafe, so you can sit down and really enjoy doing what you're doing and research while you have a cup of coffee. There are computers available. So this is really meant as a public service, and I find that quite nice. Now, you would think, yeah, so what? Not so what, because even tourism, environment, and all these issues do somehow relate back to this program. And even the Tourismus Namibia magazine is part of that archive by now. So just have a look when we launched it.
My name is Alexander Vase. I'm the production director and training officer for Namibia Media Holdings. Welcome to the official opening of the MediaTek library, kiosk and the studio. It is an honor and a privilege to be part of today's celebration and to officially open the NMH MediaTek library.
We have a saying at newsprint that if it wasn't printed, did it ever happen? And to this day, it is most probably the slogan I remember the most when I walk into newsprint. If you don't archive it, will you remember it? Because it's not just about making sure that it happened, it's also about remembering. And sometimes it's stuff you want to forget, sometimes it's stuff you want to remember, but it doesn't change the fact that it's always a memory. And to protect a memory, like a newspaper group like NMH with archiving of over 100 years of information. And I think information today is more important than ever before. Not so much about how much information you have, but being able to find it when you're looking for it. And that's why putting this library together in such a way that it's easy, accessible, that you can find the information when you need it, with individuals that know what they're doing, and at the same time, just having a cup of coffee. It's a real honor and privilege for me to cut this ribbon now.
Andreas Vogt, he donated some copies of publications we did not have in our archives, so we are very happy to receive them.
When I heard about a week or two that your archive was opening, I thought, this is the place where I would like these materials to be accessioned. And they're now yours. Thank you so much.
Ons is allemaal trots vandag, want vandag trek ons op hierdie perseel opnuut nog 'n baadjie aan, 'n nuwe baadjie. En ek dink dit is ontzagwekkend die laaste enkele jare hoeveel nuwe baadjies ons begin aantrek het in die media. En ek wil saamstem met albei, ek dink die biblioteek of argief is een van ons belangrikste bates en dit was tot 'n groot mate nog altyd die gesig van Republikein vir sekere lede van die publiek en nou is dit net baie mooier, so julle is baie meer welkom.
This place here shouldn't just be for archiving. NMH should at some stage try to move into a direction where we say, how about having actually a full-time researcher who assembles data for us, especially given this thing that we do now, wanting to have infographics every day and whatnot. You know, we just try to do these things, relying a lot of times on our instincts, and not because we are specialists at research. So eventually, you want to move in a direction where we actually have a full-time sort of researcher here who really produces election results. How many times have we carried stories around GBV or whatever you want to call it?
Ja, jetzt hoffe ich, dass ihr mich alle versteht. Denn wir machen das jetzt mal auf Deutsch. Ganz klar, wichtig. Ich bin mir mal ziemlich sicher, dass als der erste Kriegsbote rauskam, 1916, dass keiner geahnt hätte, dass dann mehr als 100 Jahre später jemand darüber redet und erzählt, dass wir ein Archiv hier drin haben, das mittlerweile mehr als 104 Jahre abdeckt. Und ich denke, das ist das Wichtige, was hier passiert. Namibia Media Holdings als Verlag, dem die AZ gehört, Allgemeine Zeitung gehört, hat natürlich eine gewisse Verantwortung, diese Geschichte festzuhalten. Und die Geschichte soll ja möglichst auch in 208 Jahren noch wieder nachlesbar sein. Und das ist, was diese Mediathek, die wir heute hier einweihen, so besonders macht. Es geht ja nicht nur um die Geschichten, sondern ich nenne jetzt mal ein einfaches Vorbild. Vor einigen Tagen rief mich eine Frau Julia Oppel an. Ihr Vater war 75 Jahre alt geworden und dem wollte sie jetzt die erste Ausgabe zeigen an dem Tag, an dem er geboren ist.
Unfortunately, one of our colleagues could not be here today, Tusnelda, but she has a speech, so I want to read for her. I will try it in my allerbeste Afrikaans. Toen ons eerst begin trekken het hier die klomp boeken en inlichting, letterlijk zoals een berg gelijk, wat ons nog nooit kon oerklim nie. Ik het intussen rofweg geteld. Daar is meer als 3400 gebinde boeken. Dit is ver die Allgemeine Zeitung. Onthoud, die courant is al meer dan 100 jaar oud. Zo, dit is meer dan 100 jaar zo couranten. Republikein, wat zelf al oer die 40 jaar oud is. En Namibian Sun, wat nou amper in zijn tienerschoenen is. Daarbij komt nog die Namibian, New Era, die Zuidwester en Advertiser bij. En dan is er nog al die honderden speciale uitgaves wat door de jaren gepubliceerd is. Wat voor mij nou indrukwekkend is dat al die massa's inlichting met hier die nieuwe bergingsstelsel, wat ons vandaag ambtelijk begin gebruik, alles mooi bij elkaar en veilig bewaard is. Meer nog, na meer dan een jaar scanwerk gaan hier al die inlichtingen op een harde schijf kan passen. Toch krijgt die gedrukte couranten op die ogenblik nog koning en is het nog steeds elke dag voor mij... Is het nog steeds elke dag voor mij opwindend om een rechte courant in mijn handen vast te houden en die inlichting daarvan te bewaren. Dus hoe komt die archief voor mij een geliefde werksplek blij. Ik zie daarnaar uit om allemaal wat inlichting zoek van vandaag en van gisteren en van 100 jaar geleden om een draai bij ons splinternieuwe bibliotheek te maken.
Yeah, and that was a video which we prepared as a highlight sort of when we launched the Mediatek. And then one last video, a clip that we got from Erwin Leuschner. He obviously joined the Minister of Environment and Forestry and Tourism, Pohamba Shifeta, last week when they did their inspection tour of the north, going up to Upuvu even. And so at one stage, Erwin prepared the following clip for us.
What happened outside. So we normally ban some areas to make sure, and we have a proper cut line and then fire breaks so that we prevent fire coming from outside the park and the park. So, and we have succeeded doing that. So that's why we allowed some parts just to get burned. We did not want to bother extinguish that fire because we already planned to burn that part. We wanted that to happen, but only some part, from especially close to the Harari and Namtune, that side, where also some damage to the pole, electrical poles, with the Nampower, I think I fixed it now. The only that part that, of course, the fire, because the fire came from different farms, and this is exactly because the result is a result of those charcoal producers in those farms. And that's why I said earlier that we are now working on amending the Forestry Act in order to put some kind of criminal norms and criminal sanctions in this, so that those fire producers, whenever they undertake such activities, they are guided by some rules, and in case they violate those rules, it becomes a criminal case. Because there must be some responsibility, even a civil case, where people can claim from these people who do this deliberately. Because there's a kind of relaxation, and people do not really want to take responsibility when they produce charcoal. And 70% of this fire, all the fires we had, especially in Ojirojupa, Kunene, Kabango, Escoto, because of the Endomaheke, because of fire producers, charcoal for producers.
Right, no animals whatsoever have died in the fire, right? Or
In the park, not really any valued animals, apart from rabbits and mice, snakes. Those one, of course, they will not escape because no, that one happens. It's part of nature when we do fire, even when we do deliberate fire burning. So we had to do some to contain the fire that was coming. That's why we had to do back burning. So just to make sure that it's contained, and we were monitoring that. Because in most cases, when we were helping, we assisted those farmers outside. We took our equipment there from Victoria and also equipment from other areas from the Forestry Directorate to extinguish the fire, but then they did not do a follow-up. So that's why this fire always comes after even 2 days, because sometimes they leave some coals in there or some trees still burning, and without knowing that when the wind comes, because of this hot wind, it's easy for the fire to catch again another area. So that was, in fact, from their own, that they did not take up that responsibility. And we always tell them that when you distinguish the fire, or when equipment comes and it's extinguish the fire, they must make sure that they make a follow-up, radius of at least about 50 meters. You must make sure that there are no some burning or some smoke coming there. You must come and do something there, extinguish that part, because once wind comes, it will still, those parts will still get into the forest and then start burning.
But for now it's completely out, right?
Yeah, now it's okay, and it's good that the part that got burned is okay, because even if the fire break out somewhere, it will not come again, because it works as now fire break, that part.
When long ago was this? Was it like about a month ago?
Yeah, it's last month. Last month we had almost 15 days areas burned, those farms.
Well, there you have it. Those were our topics for today. So next up is destinations, but let's first have a quick peek what the marketplace has to tell us. Hi, as usual, you can see Chloe has joined me. That's Chloe Deur. She writes for Tourismus Namibia magazine. Welcome back.
Thank you, Frank.
So Chloe has obviously had a look around. She's busy preparing for our final edition for the year, and similar to last week, you've got some more photos to share.
Yeah, I think obviously there's so many different places that people can go to. So we're trying to show places kind of more away from Swakopmund, where everybody seems to gravitate for good reason. But at the same time, you know, there are, especially now with kind of COVID and everything, choosing the more secluded places is probably the way to go at the moment.
That's the way we generally go about it these days, because obviously we will write about Swakop, we will write about the obvious places. But the idea is obviously to show some alternatives to those people who might still want to just do a quick encounter with good old nature and then return back to Swakop, because this is really what it is. You can actually leave for 3 days and come back.
And
again.
it's not that far.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think even just the journeys to the different places are a holiday in itself.
Exactly.
And if you take it slowly and you actually just go with the flow, actually that's the kind of the concept of our
and that's the
plan.
thing, because you don't always need to do everything according to, okay, 5 o'clock I need to be there, and 6 o'clock I'll do this. That's what you do at work.
And in a way, I almost encourage don't plan, because actually, even on this trip, a lot of these places I didn't actually physically stay at, but I found them along the way and I was like, oh, damn, I shouldn't have, but I had planned beforehand, you know? And so that's why it's lovely not having a dedicated destination actually, and just going with the flow, yeah. Especially if you're camping, because the best campsites actually you don't find on the internet. I find
you actually go and have a look.
them, yeah.
often, if that's what I always told you when you go down into the Kalahari as well. Don't actually plan, just go along those routes and you'll suddenly find, oh, welcome, we've got this little lodge here, or welcome, we've got
Exactly.
a 4x4 route or a camping site or whatever. And then you really want to go there, but you know, no, this evening I need to be at lodge number 5.
Exactly,
and then
yeah.
you carry on.
And
which
you
is
can't
a
cancel
shame.
bookings as easily as you can
Yeah.
make a last minute one. So yeah.
So first one you said, Desert Quiver.
Desert Quiver, yes. I was actually in Sesriem, obviously documenting the arrival of the UN World Tourism,
Yeah.
which was exciting. So a perfectly located camp is Desert Quiver because it's only 5 kilometers outside of the Sesriem gate. And obviously, if you are wanting to photograph Sossus Flare in the early hours of the morning, you actually want to be camping within Sesriem so that
Yeah.
you can actually, you have that 1 hour head start. But I mean, this is everything you could need. I mean, at first when I arrived, I thought, gosh, the accommodation is quite close together, but
Yeah.
you are so immersed in your surroundings that you don't even recognize that there are people around you. And it literally is everything that
Wow,
you
I
could
didn't
need.
realize that.
I
Got
mean,
a
look at
pool
that
there as well.
oasis in the middle of
Yeah.
nowhere. And actually, they have some Wi-Fi there, and I was sending pictures to you in the middle of the
Okay, yeah, I
Namib Desert.
remember, yeah.
And an oryx came and like literally didn't see that I was standing there, and so it's wonderful because you do have the wildlife that come through. There's a water hole, but the rooms themselves are fully equipped. I mean, it's like glamping at its best, really. Even though it is a structure, you can order fresh food to be delivered to you from the reception, and they have like an amenity box if you haven't come with all the kind of cooking utensils. So it's and if you are two paying customers and you have 2 children under 12, the children stay for free, which is
That's quite
wonderful,
nice, yeah.
especially in the holiday season. What's also nice is they have kind of like communal braai spots. So if you've come with a bunch of friends and you've all taken a different bungalow, you can go and
then you meet
have
up
a
and
braai
sort
at the.
I just wanted to say, when I looked at this now, I mean, this is sort of in a roundabout way towards the back. You look at Sesriem
Yes, exactly.
Canyon, actually.
Exactly.
Because if I remember correctly, as you go to Sesriem Canyon, you can actually even access them from that side.
I didn't realize
Or
that.
you can do it from the Sossus Flare campsite.
You know, I still haven't gone to Sesriem Canyon.
Wow.
Which
Okay.
is
That's your
another
own mistake,
but
not mine.
this night in particular was incredible because
Yeah,
there was
look
like
at
a
this,
full
huh?
moon. It's not the best picture, but the moon that night, I mean, I didn't see a single star in the sky. That's
Yeah,
how
no,
bright the
sure.
moon was.
Yeah.
But I actually went on a run in the early morning, and there were leopard tracks everywhere. So you know,
What?
you have to. I mean, you are in the wilderness, and though.
Are you sure it's leopard, or was it
The-
not maybe hyena?
It couldn't have been hyena
okay.
because it didn't have the you know, they don't have retractable
Yeah.
claws, but they were huge and they were everywhere. So I promise you, I actually ran faster than I've ever run in my entire life because I was just making sure. Because
That you always one
you
step
do-
ahead.
you do have the freedom of being in the wilderness. So I mean, I can't think of a better place to position yourself. But then continuing up on the C14,
Yeah.
you head towards actually your recommendation.
Yeah, Rostock Ritz.
And I was so pleasantly surprised by that place.
Yeah, because
I
the
mean,
name always makes you think, okay, what would this be? You know, you
It
Ritz
is-
and you think automatically into a European sort of environment. and
exactly.
so-
I didn't realize that the Rostock were actually a mountain range. So,
Yeah,
and so its name isn't actually completely bizarre. Neither is the Corona Guest Farm, which
Yeah.
which is also en route.
Yeah,
which
true.
is, I mean,
near Roysand,
I had a bit of a chuckle when I passed that sign. But these are the views that you
This
have.
is actually the Gamsberg, which you see in the back there.
And these are the views that you have from Rostock. And what's so nice is that you don't feel fenced in at all because
Well, there literally
they
is
don't
no
have
fence,
any
yeah,
fences.
yeah.
But the hiking trails there are incredible, and the campsites are also
Exactly.
fantastic. I mean, they were actually uniquely designed on purpose, even though it is quite a trendy design now. They were one of the first to have this kind of
these
dome
are
shape.
years back. Yeah.
But it's actually for the sandstorms, which, you know, I always thought that they were kind of, because it's built into the granite, that
And
it
it's
was.
also cooler, no?
I wouldn't know, but
I've stayed there.
Oh, really?
I can assure you, those things are very cool.
But it's very much built into the landscape, so you don't really see it very often. But they also have a wonderful pool, which is always welcome when
Yeah.
you are in the
in that heat, yeah.
but their hiking trails look fantastic, and
they're easy ones. They're the shorter ones, they're the longer ones, and depending on how you book in there, you can actually also go and drive around, sort of self-drive.
Yes, and they actually have Bushman painting as well, towards the Rostock Mountains. So actually, I mean, and once again, for the campsites, children under 12 don't pay.
Yeah.
So for the kind of holiday in action where you're all going to be going with your families at the end of the year, these kinds of places really do accommodate for families,
Yeah.
you know. And I think
you haven't included those photos in here now, but further down there, these camping sites. Very straightforward, nothing fancy, but it's
all you
like in
need.
the middle. Yeah, exactly.
it's actually 7 kilometers from the lodge,
Yeah.
so you don't get the light pollution from the lodge or anything. It's so remote.
And it's behind a tiny mountain, so with the result is you actually don't even see the lodge at night. Yeah.
No, it's freedom at its best, to be quite honest with you.
But I'm glad you were pleasantly surprised, because
I was put
first
off
time
by
I
the
read
name.
Rostock Ritz, I said, who goes
Who goes to the Ritz in the
Yeah,
desert? Like, who does that?
But it is, and I think there was a bit of a chuckle on Kiki's side when he started out of that lodge, because
Yeah,
he
but I mean,
actually did that. He started that.
He's
lodge.
done a good job, though. He also trains a lot of the locals, because he works
He's
in the
actually sold
tourism
it now
industry.
last year.
Oh, has he?
Yeah, but he's always been into it. And what was also impressing to me always was how he set up his solar panels and created vehicle shades for them automatically, those parking spaces.
Always
I
a
don't know if
clever
you
way.
noticed,
I didn't see that,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
always a clever way.
Yeah.
And then heading onto the other side towards the Orongo Mountains is Omandumba Guest Farm. And actually they also have a bush camp as well, but they are most well known for their rock art tour that you're able to book and go on. And it's inside the Orongo Mountain
Ranges.
Nature Reserve.
Yeah. It's actually a conservancy.
It is a conservancy,
Yeah.
yes. And anyway, so this is actually just one of the accommodation establishments they have. Obviously, they have camping and all sorts of things, and there were signs for lion and all sorts of things in the area. I didn't see any, but I mean, I was really on my way to Omaruru just through that kind of back road. But this is a very kind of beautiful, kind of farm-like experience.
Typical little guest farm environment.
Exactly, but it is incredibly peaceful, and they have an amazing vegetable patch there, because obviously you have the option of having lunch and dinner and stuff at the main farmhouse, and they grow all of their own vegetables. And for me, I mean, I've always wondered why I haven't seen more farms actually growing things and being more subsistence based in the tourism industry, especially. But they had spinach, they had all the vegetables you would
You'll be
need.
surprised, especially in the Orongo region, because you've got better quality water there. Many of the farmers actually are self-sufficient in many ways.
That's wonderful.
I think what happens is the further you go out from the centres, the more self-sufficient the farmers become.
Because they have to, actually.
Exactly, because it's expensive to drive to town just to get a tomato.
Yeah.
Whereas the closer to town you come, the more the financial calculation comes into play, where they say, you know, for the 5 tomatoes that I eat in a week, it's much easier. I have to go to town in any case for this, that, and another.
Exactly.
So I'll take my 5 tomatoes along instead of pumping water and doing this. And so it is a bit of a cost question. And then I dare say some farmers have simply given up because it's easier to buy at the supermarket.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I think now it's been quite complicated with kind of there not being so many bookings, kind of not knowing whether to buy a large
Stock
amount
or
of
not.
stock, because we don't know if you. So being subsistence based is always easier from that perspective.
Yeah.
But other nice attractions in the area, I mean, you have the Aiba rock
Lodge,
painting lodge,
yeah.
but also the Sand Museum, which we'll discuss more in later stage. But I mean, it is.
But that whole area is so interesting,
yeah, it is.
and I remember, I mean, you now spoke of lion, warning that there might be lions. It was quite a contentious thing about 2 years ago, because a number of the farmers actually believed that lions should be relocated to that area, because previously they were obviously at home. Others said, no, but after so many years, you shouldn't. Because what you're now doing is you're endangering the people that have gotten used to not having lions around there. So what had happened is they already had put in lions. Now later it was said that they'd been removed, but somehow the numbers didn't add up. So nobody knows for sure, did they actually go back to where they came from?
Yeah.
Because cats do that often. But you can't take that chance. So most of the farms in that area have decided to leave those boards on. But I think it is pretty unlikely to run over a line in that area. Or, meet him there in the bush, because I'm quite sure they've left. Too much
I would
human
agree.
traffic and vehicles.
There were also
and so on.
signs for elephant and things like that, and it's almost sad because at one point in time that would have been I mean most of the rock paintings in the area are actually of elephant, and so it just goes to show how much everything has changed. So I would support the reintroduction of that, really.
But it needs to be in an organized fashion, because you obviously, with conservancies, you always need to have some form of compromise.
Yeah.
Because some people will obviously prefer to have a second Nankuse there. The next one says, no, I just want the basic stuff, some giraffe and this and that, and I want my people to be safe. So it's always, you can never win this one, because you always have these two extremes. And in a conservancy such as that one, it becomes a difficulty. But anyway, there's lots of really nice farms. And for those of you who were wondering now where exactly, this is typically you can approach it from from three directions. You can either take it from Karibib and go via Kransberg and those areas into the Irango. Most people prefer to approach it from Usakos side, but not as you go up to Spitskopje necessarily, but from inside town you take the back way out. That's the easiest one, but then just as easy as if you go to Maruru and then go the back way around, and then you drive towards the Spitskopje. And then you literally come through the valley. So it doesn't really matter which way you go. Both sides, you see the same stuff.
And the roads are really well maintained.
Very interesting area. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I could quite literally have spent about a week there and still not have uncovered it all. But it's also not that far from Windhoek or Swakopmund.
It's 2 hours drive.
Exactly. So, it's even just for a weekend getaway, the campsites there are fantastic. They actually are on a par with Spitskopje, really, because it's the same kind of mountain range.
I just wanted to say, it's just 60 k's apart, really.
And actually even more secluded, really, because obviously,
you're enclosed and you're more sheltered from the winds and so on.
So there are a lot of campsites dispersed around the farm, which are worth looking into, because it's rustic camping, though. I mean, you bring all your... But, I mean, I think that's the best kind of camping. If you're going to camp, you might as well rough it. Otherwise, it's not really as fun.
No, true. Especially if you only do it for 2-3 days.
Exactly.
Nothing to be there. Anyway, so we hope we got you interested in Irango. In next year, we'll have a couple of editions where we start focusing on Otjozondjupa. We're focusing on Irango and those areas, just to come a bit closer to different alternatives, closer to home, not always having to drive 400, 500 k's just to get to something worthwhile visiting. There are many things to see quite close at home. Anyway, until then, or next week.
Thank you, Frank.
Okay. That was Chloe, obviously giving us a bit of an insight. And I must admit, I actually enjoy these sessions for the simple reason that I've always thought that I know much of Namibia, but I start learning bit by bit as she learns. Chloe obviously is not from Namibia, and so she looks at these things with a totally different eye than most of the Namibians do, simply because we're so used to accepting that the region is what it is. So yeah, there it goes. I hope you enjoyed that. So up next we've got To the Point, but before we go there, let's just have a look at the marketplace. Yes, to the point. This time we don't have an interview. We decided to have it a bit different. The NTE taught us that we don't necessarily have to invite all these different people for interviews. We can also look at this whole thing a bit differently. So this week we got this interesting news from Journeys Namibia, and they were quite proud to announce that Lonely Planets, that's one of these internet destination sites, they've in any case decided to pick Grootberg Lodge, which is part of Journeys Namibia, is singled out as one of the destinations transforming travel. And I'll read off this document because it basically says here, Global Travel Authority Lonely Planet yesterday unveiled a radical reimagining of its much-awaited best in travel picks for 2021, reflecting an unprecedented year of disruption in the travel industry. For the first time this year's list spotlights not only places, but also people and communities, which obviously applies in Namibia. For 2021, Lonely Planet is looking ahead to the important changes taking place globally, from sustainability to diversity, shining a light on the future of travel. This year, Grootberg Lodge has been singled out as one of the destinations which is transforming the travel industry. Now, this is obviously great news. So what we then decided, we wanted to sort of follow what we started doing at the NTE just recently, where we actually phone into the sites and give you a video of a real live image of what's happening. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work out because we could hear them, but they couldn't hear us. And I suppose data is a bit of a problem. You will see it on the video as well. So what we simply did is we phoned, it was Memory Ganuses, and she's the manager of Grootberg Lodge. And so I said, okay, simply just talk and show us what you've got, and we'll cut it into this interview later on. So here's what she showed us.
Okay, let me just walk you. Let me just walk you through the place. Okay. This is the entrance to the lodge. And as we go through the entrance, you have the notice board, everything about the lodge, the conservancy. Then we come to your reception. And then as we walk through, then here you come into the restaurant area, the lodge, where we do our breakfast and our dinner services. And then just behind the fireplace, you will find a little bar. Yes, a little bar. And the lounge area. Okay. Then you come here to the bar. And then from the bar, you go outside to the deck. Hello. Hello. Okay, and then this is our view from the deck. Sure. And then the pool down there, swimming pool down there, with our chalets on the edge of the plateau on both sides. It's our valley down there, and then the chalets just on the other side of the plateau also. Then you're up here on the deck. Yeah, and then that's it. I'm sure you enjoyed watching this. Okay, I'm going to hang up now. Let me know.
Yeah, it was a bit of a funny moment there because obviously Memory is not a professional photographer. That's not what she does. She manages lodges. But we try to give you a real life feel of what is going on there. And we actually asked Journeys Namibia to provide some material to us so that we can back up what Memory has just shown you there.
Nga, 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 nga. Hippo nga pa.
Grootberg Lodge is successful because of the proud ownership of the community and the staff that works here that are very passionate about their work, and also the management company, Tourismus Namibia, which does the marketing, the hiring and training of the staff. The surrounding community also does benefit from Grootberg Lodge.
I mean, they benefit from educational ways, the schools, as well the old people and the farmers as well, if their livestock is damaged caused by wild animals.
The Predators Fund irons out human and wildlife conflict by compensating the farmers for the loss of livestock. For example, if a lion attacks the cow of a farmer, for each predator sighting on one of our activities, Tourismus Namibia pays 25 Namibian dollars. The more sightings there are, the more the community benefits. This gives them interest in keeping the wildlife safe. Now that we see that tourism brings a real benefit to our community, we feel that we have a great responsibility to take care of our wildlife and natural resources.
Kay ayos.
Yeah, so there's a better impression of what we tried to show you. Not to discount what Memory did. We were actually quite thankful, because the idea is really to not only illustrate what people are doing out at those lodges, sort of on a big advertising sort of film, but to actually show you what it is really like. And that's why we still wanted to show you that first bit where Memory walked about a bit and showed you what's going on there right now. So hope you enjoyed it. Possibly a nice outing for you in the upcoming holidays. I know it's quite hot, but as you could see, there's quite a nice pool in there. So that brings us to the end of today's show. I hope you enjoyed what we showed you and told you, and hope to see you back next week. Have a lovely weekend. Bye.